Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
The intellectual monument, misleadingly titled, in some anthologies, as the 859 contributions to the founding of the theory of transfinite numbers, represents a body of work authored by Georg Cantor significantly later, primarily between 874 and 884. The prompt specified title points most directly to the culminating paper of this creative period, the 1883 Grundlagen einer allgemeinen Mannigfaltigkeitslehre, or Foundations of a General Theory of Aggregates. This essay will perform a direct and sequential evaluation of the internal claims, mechanisms, and arguments presented within that foundational 1883 text, a work that serves as a declaration of independence for a new realm of mathematical thought. We will proceed by examining the logical and philosophical architecture Cantor constructs, assessing the soundness of each tier of his extraordinary edifice as he himself laid it out. The purpose is to understand the theory from within, to appraise the arguments on their own terms, and to illuminate the specific intellectual manoeuvres that brought the transfinite into being as a subject of formal inquiry. The analysis will follow the progression of Cantor's own exposition, charting the journey from metaphysical justification to the concrete formulation of questions that would preoccupy mathematics through the next century. Section 1. The metaphysical justification for the actual infinite. Cantor's treatise begins with a lengthy philosophical prolegomena, a necessary preamble to the mathematics that follows. His first and most fundamental claim is the legitimate existence of the actual, or completed, infinite as an object of mathematical study. He carefully distinguishes this concept, which he terms the transfinitum, from two other forms of infinity. The first is the potential infinite, the traditional concept sanctioned since Aristotle, which envisions a process that can always continue without end, like the counting of natural numbers. The second is the absolute infinite, which he identifies with the totality of being, or God, a concept he deems beyond the grasp of human mathematical formulation. His central argument is that the transfinitum, the realm of completed infinite magnitudes, exists as a coherent and consistent middle ground, a Platonic reality accessible to the mathematical mind. The mechanism for this argument is principally one of redefinition and assertion. He posits that the essence of mathematics resides in its freedom, as long as a concept is internally consistent and can be usefully defined, it constitutes a valid object for mathematics. The evidence he offers is conceptual. He argues that concepts like the aggregate of all real numbers between 0 and 1 presuppose a completed infinite totality. The evaluation of this opening claim reveals its character as a manifesto. Its persuasive power depends entirely on the reader's willingness to accept his initial philosophical framework. He is clearing conceptual space for his theory by declaring that space to exist, the argument, possesses the quality of a foundational axiom for a new science, a bold assertion that what was once considered a logical paradox is in fact a rich and structured reality. His claim is that the fear of the actual infinite is a historical contingency, a philosophical prejudice that has constrained mathematical progress. In a display of intellectual diplomacy, he frames his work as a clarification, a proper categorization of infinities that brings order to a confused topic, all while fundamentally altering the boundaries of mathematical Section 2. The principles of generation and the construction of the ordinals. Having established the philosophical right to explore the transfinite, Cantor proceeds to the constructive part of his work. His central claim in this section is that a coherent and strictly ordered sequence of numbers can be generated, extending far beyond the finite integers. He introduces the specific mechanism for this construction through two principles of generation. The first principle is an extension of familiar counting for any number alpha already defined. One can form its successor, alpha plus 1. This principle, by itself, generates the familiar sequence of finite natural numbers. The revolutionary step is the second principle of generation. This principle states that for any definite, existing sequence of defined numbers which has no greatest element, a new number is created by positing it as the limit of that sequence. This limit is defined as the smallest number, which is larger than every number in the given sequence. Using these two principles, he constructs his first transfinite number. He takes the entirety of the sequence of finite integers 0, 1, 2, and so on, which he calls the first number class. This sequence is definite and possesses no largest element. Applying the second principle of generation, he posits the existence of a new number which he names omega as its limit. From omega, the first principle can be applied again to generate omega plus 1, omega plus 2, and so forth. A critical evaluation of these claims and mechanisms reveals their ingenuity and their reliance on intuitive concepts. The term definite sequence is a crucial component, yet it remains undefined with formal rigor. Cantor operates on the assumption that certain infinite collections are graspable as a single, coherent whole, a direct consequence of his belief in the actual infinite. The second principle is an act of pure intellectual creation. It is a procedural rule whose validity is asserted as a law of thought, enabling the mind to ascend into the transfinite realm in a stepwise, controlled fashion. The argument's coherence is entailed if one accepts the legitimacy of treating an infinite sequence as a completed object, then the positing of a limit to that sequence appears as a plausible next step. He has effectively designed an engine for producing an endless hierarchy of new numbers, with the second principle serving as a crucial gear for shifting from one level of infinity to the next. Section 3. Well-ordered sets as the structural foundation. The next major section of the Grundlagen introduces the conceptual backbone upon which the entire theory of transfinite numbers rests, the concept of a well-ordered set. Cantor's primary claim here is that the notion of a well-ordered aggregate provides the essential structure for understanding and comparing transfinite magnitudes. He defines a well-ordered set as a totally ordered set, where every non-empty subset has a distinct first element. The natural numbers in their usual order serve as the primary example. The mechanism he employs is again one of definition and axiomatic assertion. After defining the property of well-ordering, he elevates its applicability to a universal status. By stating what later became known as the well-ordering principle, he presents it as a fundamental and momentous law of thought, claiming that every well-defined set can be brought into the form of a well-ordered set. An evaluation of this claim reveals it as the most powerful and, for his contemporaries, most suspect assertion in the entire work. He provides minimal internal justification for this law of thought, presenting it as self-evident and essential for the progress of his theory. The claim's purpose is to guarantee that any set, no matter how complex, like the continuum of real numbers, can be structured in a way that resembles the counting numbers, with a clear first element, a second, a third, and so on, continuing deep into the transfinite. This would allow for the comparison of the size of any two sets. Without this principle, his ambition to create a comprehensive theory of cardinal numbers, by assigning a transfinite ordinal number to every set, would fail. The argument is therefore teleological. The principle is true because it must be true for the theory to work. We see here a profound intellectual leap, where a deep and non-obvious mathematical hypothesis is presented as an intuitive certainty. The subsequent century of mathematics, culminating in Zamilo's 1894 proof of the well-ordering principle is equivalent to the axiom of choice, would demonstrate just how profound and non-trivial Cantor's law of thought truly was. Within the of Nature 83 paper, it functions as a powerful, unproven axiom that unlocks the rest of his system. Section 4. The number classes, and the hierarchy of alephs, building upon the foundation of well-ordered sets. Cantor proceeds to his next grand claim: the transfinite numbers themselves can be organized into a majestic, hierarchical structure of what he calls number classes, which in turn generate a scale of ever-increasing infinite cardinalities, the alephs. The mechanism for this construction is a brilliant synthesis of his earlier principles. The first number class, denoted with the Roman numeral 1, is the set of all finite ordinal numbers. The quantity of elements in this class, its cardinal number, he designates with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, aleph, subscripted with a 0, yielding aleph null. This is the cardinality of any countably infinite set. He then defines the second number class, denoted with the Roman numeral 2. This class consists of all the ordinal numbers which can be put into a one-to-one correspondence with the elements of the first number class. It begins with his first transfinite ordinal, omega, and continues with omega plus 1, omega plus 2, and so on, up to, for example, omega multiplied by 2, omega raised to the power of omega, and beyond. All of these ordinals share the property that the set of their predecessors is countable. Cantor then claims that this second number class itself represents a new, larger infinite magnitude, its cardinality. The count of all countable ordinals he designates as alephone. This is the first uncountable cardinal number. This process, he argues, can be continued indefinitely, generating a third number class of cardinality, alephwo, and so on, creating an endless ladder of alephs. A critical evaluation of this section highlights the immense constructive power of his system. The argument is internally coherent, provided one accepts the prior axioms. Each step logically follows from the last, building a universe of immense complexity and structure from a few core ideas. The claim's strength is its elegance and its ability to produce a seemingly exhaustive classification of infinite magnitudes. The entire structure, however, rests critically on the unproven well-ordering principle, which guarantees that every set can be assigned a place in this hierarchy. Furthermore, the argument for the existence of the second number class as a completed set contains the seeds of later paradoxes. Cantor asserts its existence by an act of aggregation, but the question of whether such a collection set of all countable ordinals can be coherently formed without contradiction would later be challenged by the Burali-Forti paradox, which considers the set of all ordinal numbers. Within the confines of the Grundlagen, however, Cantor presents this magnificent structure with unwavering confidence, a testament to his belief in the intuitive soundness of his generative principles. Section 5. The continuum hypothesis and the nature of the real line. In the final major argumentative thrust of the paper, Cantor turns his attention to the most famous and persistent problem to emerge from his theory. His central claim in this section, known as the continuum hypothesis, is that the cardinality of the set of all real numbers, the continuum, is precisely alephone, the very next infinite magnitude after the countable infinity of aleph null. The mechanism he deploys to support this claim is different from the more axiomatic assertions of the previous sections. Here, he delves into the intricate structure of point sets on the real line, employing a powerful analytical tool of his own invention, the derived set. For any set of points P, he defines its first derived set, denoted P with a prime, as the set of all limit points of P. He observes that for a closed set, repeating this operation can peel away its points. Layer by layer, he then extends this process into the transfinite, defining the derived set of order omega as the intersection of all finite order derived sets. This can continue, defining derived sets for any transfinite ordinal. His argument is that any infinite point set on the real line can be decomposed into two parts, a countable set that can be exhausted by this transfinite process of derivation, and a so-called perfect set, which is a closed set where every point is a limit point. He had earlier proven that any perfect set has the power of the continuum. Thus, he claims, any infinite subset of the reals must be either countable or have the cardinality of the continuum. From this, he concludes that the continuum's cardinality must be the smallest uncountable cardinal, which is alephone. The evaluation of this argument reveals it to be the most technically dense and ultimately inconclusive part of the work. The claim is a specific, falsifiable scientific hypothesis, yet the proof he offers is incomplete, while the theorem about the decomposition of closed sets was a major achievement in its own right, it did not fully secure the grand conclusion of the continuum hypothesis. There was a logical gap in assuming this decomposition applied to all infinite sets, not just closed ones. One can see in these pages a brilliant mathematician operating at the absolute frontier of his own methods. His intuition about the structure of the real line was profound, but the formal tools to prove his conviction were lacking. He presents the continuum hypothesis with the certainty of a discoverer describing a new continent, even though his map of the coastline remains partially speculative. The later work of Gödel and Cohen, which demonstrated that the continuum hypothesis is independent of the standard axioms of set theory, reveals the true depth of the problem. Cantor, within the Grundlagen, presents it as a theorem awaiting the final details of its proof, a capstone to his theory that has, quite ironically, remained detached from the main structure ever since. In conclusion, a direct evaluation of the internal claims of Cantor's 2883 Grundlagen reveals a work of extraordinary intellectual audacity and architectural coherence. The entire system is built upon a foundation of philosophical redefinition, where the actual infinite is admitted into existence by fiat. From this starting point, the argument proceeds with remarkable logical force, constructing a universe of transfinite numbers through powerful, intuitively asserted principles of generation and organization. The central claims concerning the well-ordering of any set and the specific value of the continuum's cardinality function as powerful, system-defining axioms and hypotheses, presented by Cantor with a confidence that outpaced his capacity for formal demonstration. His method blends procedural construction with axiomatic assertion, creating a system whose beauty and scope were so compelling that they catalyzed the development of an entire field. The work's enduring significance derives from its success in establishing the transfinite as a subject amenable to rigorous thought. The Grundlagen is a profound act of mathematical creation, a text that functions simultaneously as a philosophical manifesto, a technical treatise, and a research program. Cantor did not merely solve a problem, he asserted the existence of a new world and provided the first, breathtakingly detailed, and fundamentally world-changing map of its terrain.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.